Hi guys, it's John. Welcome to the Anti-Guru channel. Hello. If you're new, welcome. It's lovely to see you. Come in and take a seat. Now, today's video is a bit different because today's video comes off the back of a Facebook post I put in our Property Expert Community Facebook group. And the post said this. I'll read it to you. I saw other property professionals do this theoretically, and I've actually done this over an afternoon in Kettering 2 years ago when I actually had some free time. So I thought it would be fun to put a call out and see what the answers I would get to this question. And the question was, if we were able to have a one-to-one in a coffee shop, what question would you ask me? What pressing planning question or any question would you ask me? Now, happily, I got something like 17 answers to that post, which is fabulous. And what the guys who posted on that post didn't know was that I'm going to do a video on it. And of course, I'm going to do a video on it, and I'm going to do a video answering their questions. So join me in the next couple of minutes, where we're going to go through those questions asked and answer them on the Anti-Guru. Run credits. So there are a number of questions asked. There were 17 to be precise, 17 comments as it were. I'm going to answer all of them, funny or not. I think this is a good way because it is the 4th of November and it is a really good way to sort of break the ice, because tomorrow potentially the UK goes into its second lockdown, lockdown 2, the hibernating, or whatever we're going to call it. Anyway. So I'm going to answer all these questions. There's a lot to answer. I'm going to go through them as quickly as I can. I'll read out your name and your question because you can't see my screen, that kind of thing. But it's good to do this. I think this is great audience participation. So we're going to start right at the top. Mitch Tet asks, milk and sugar. Mitch, thank you for the ask. The question is no. I'm actually fasting at the moment. I have been for the last 57 days. I'm on intermittent fasting, which is helping with my weight and helping with my health generally. So no, thank you very much. I take mine black. Kingsman Property Development asked if I would like a donut. Same answer to Mitch, I'm afraid. I know who that is, to be fair. So same answer to Mitch, on fasting at the moment. Thank you very much. I'll take a black coffee or a black tea. Patricia Sadio says, is it as stressful as it always appears to be? Now, I presume you mean the planning system there, and the answer, sadly, is yes. A planning system does tend to be as stressful as it appears to be, and it's only getting worse, not better. I've been saying for a number of years now that planning is getting harder, and as sad as it is to admit that planning is getting harder, planning is getting harder. I don't think the government's changes are going to make it any easier. I think it's going to build layers of complexity in that weren't there before. So it is stressful. Being a property developer is stressful. I can certainly agree with that. I've got more grey hair than I care to mention at the moment. And certainly being a planning consultant is stressful. I think we're in there with, you know, most stressful jobs in the universe. Craig Shepherd asked me, what would you do with a grade 2 nuclear bunker that was listed? And what issues would you have to build directly underneath a 400 kilovolt property line, power line? So nuclear bunkers, wow. I think I might actually be tempted to use it as a conference center or something. The problem with nuclear bunkers is they tend to be designed to keep things out that you need for dwellings. So they're not really suitable for punching windows in, and it being listed as well, I doubt they would ever give you consent for that. But there is a duty to find a new use for that listed building. So a conference centre would be really interesting, a conference hall, some form of auditorium, because I would imagine the acoustics inside are obscene, or even offices, because offices don't need light necessarily. What issues would you have to build under a 400 kilovolt power line? Amongst other things, it's not really a practical issue per se, but it's a stigma issue. Those type of power lines hum. They hum when they're wet. So people don't tend to like to live underneath them because they hum. The other aspect, of course, is that they you have to be very careful when you are actually building underneath them so you don't touch them. You don't want your crane operator to knock into one. A, it's a very expensive fix, and B, it's a very, very small box on a form to explain why your crane has melted. So just bear in mind the practicalities of dealing with them. But I think the biggest thing is the stigma. Everyone is worried about living underneath the power line if you live out in the sticks. So Roz Ingleby asked, due to the government trying to keep hubs as they are they even worth considering for commercial or residential conversions, or are they way too much hassle? I think this is a great question. The simple answer is that they are hassle, and being moved into the sui generis class makes it more hassle rather than less. So in reality, Roz, unless you can demonstrate that the people are not, or the people who use the pub are not needing that pub anymore, I would very much step away from the pub market right now. They are difficult, and that's from me saying they are difficult. They're known to be difficult. That being said, if you get it right, and there is an anti-guru video on pub conversions, but if you get it right, they make fabulous conversions as well. Right, so next question. Sharon Muchari asks a really broad question. What's the best way to add value in the shortest possible time? The time benefit, cost benefit analysis argument always falls to the same thing, which is a flip. Flips make the best value for the shortest possible time. If you look at pounds per minute or pounds per day, a flip refurb is very much focused on getting the quickest possible turnaround for that property in the shortest possible time and the best possible value add. And if you get the property right, so if you've got a property that's unmortgageable as a start and you do a flip refurb and get it in and get that up to speed really, really quickly and get into a mortgageable state, the value uplift can be quite high compared to the time that you spent. So a flip, in my view, tends to be the best pounds per minute answer to that question. Paul Benson asks, latte or something stronger? Right, depends on if I'm fasting or not, Paul. If I'm not fasting, then it is a latte. It's a skinny caramel latte. That's the preference. Or Mrs. M has got me on rum at the moment. Don't ask me why. She just presented a bottle of rum and said, try this, and it's nice. So it depends on the time of day, of course. Sun past yard arm, I'm not fasting, that kind of thing. Andy Staples asks, permission in principle, once approved, what can stop the agreed development? Okay, so the council can still put spanners in works if necessary. They're like outline planning permissions. So the council can still come back and argue if it feels the need on the other matters, design, layout, scale, and landscape. But the other bits, highways and the number of units, are already set. So it would take a bit of a U-turn for the council to renege on number of units or on the access provision. But they can definitely go after you in terms of the other bits and pieces that are in the system. So my advice, treat permission in principle as if you were treating it as an outline, or importantly, as a legally binding preamp. Oliver Corkery says, Ronnie Cray or Reggie? I know where this comes from. It's because when Ollie was part of a mastermind group I was attached to, him and his twin don't half look like the Cray twins when they want to. The answer, Ollie, is Ronnie Cray. Reggie was mental. Ronnie Cray was the business mind, and I will always follow Ronnie rather than Reggie because that's the way I saw them. Sonny Palmer. How does the NPF in Scotland, National Planning Framework in Scotland, relate to the NPPF in England? They are two of the same thing, basically. The NPPF in England is the English National Planning Policy Framework. The NPF in Scotland is the Scottish National Policy Framework for planning. It's the same as the PPW, Planning Policy Wales. This comes out of the bifurcation, as it were, of the jurisdictions, where devolution forced planning apart. NPF can set its own standards, its own policies separate from the NPPF because there's no requirement for them to be consistent anymore. Prior to devolution, they had to be consistent. Afterwards, not. Gavin Swinburne. That's a great question. Gavin Swinburne, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the possible changes technology may bring to the LPA planning process, e.g. as technology starts to disinterminate white-collar workers. I've no idea what you were trying to say there. Are the decision-making processes for certain types of planning applications candidates for automation? Could rules be encoded, e.g. for where development boundaries should be expanded, where sustainable developments could take place? All blue sky ideas, but I thought it would be an interesting conversation. Yes, it is an interesting conversation. I think where technology can really bite into the planning system is in the frame of permitted development and prior notification. Binary test applications, where it is ones or zeros. Then it is an expert system. It's designed to be an expert system. It's designed for you to just engage. And if you can get that right, yeah, I don't see any reason why planning cannot utilize automation to automate certainly the permitted development part of the system. No need for interpretation there, really. They're binary tests. Justin, what are the chances or the approach needed to get planning in a rear garden area, soon to be hard standing with 2 parking spaces, of a pub being converted to 7 flats, 5 parking spaces in front? I thought if it was possibly social housing, but it might be more likely to be approved. Right, got it. If there's already a planning application for the property that relies upon the car parking, then in reality, looking at your numbers, if you've got 5 in front, 2 in the back, then you've got 7 for 7. So you're going to have to try and preserve that car parking in some way or otherwise justify against it. I would imagine there's a planning condition on the planning permission for the pub that says it has to provide that car parking. So I think that may knock that on the head reasonably quickly. It would be in breach of planning condition if you were to do it otherwise. Social housing has a bit of a push with planning authorities, but not as much as people think. And in reality, I would be saying, look, do it on its merits rather than try and force it through social housing. Definitely in respect of the fact that you might be taking up a car parking space or 2. Don't try and force the issue there. Okay, some questions, some answers. I found that tremendously interesting. I hope you did too. Please like, comment, subscribe. If you're one of the people that ask those questions, I'll of course thank you very much for joining me for this virtual coffee. I hope that was interesting for you too. Next Anti-Guru is going to be more audience participation. We've got more questions to answer from posts received in the videos, so we will get on and do those just right away. Have a great day, everyone. Catch you on the next one.